Okay. I switched to a glass mouse pad for 30 days by Optimum Tech. Okay. So I'm just excited for this video because I think Optimum Tech is like a pretty decent aimer, and because like in a lot of videos whenever he does like the whole mouse and uh what is it, the mouse pad thing, it's like, or he's trying to show something, it's like he does do Kovacs or aim lab or whatever. So I respect him for that. All right, and then also I got one too. See, you are a fellow cutting board user, so let's see. I want to see what you think.
Glass mousepads are really starting to get popular. Super low friction, perfectly consistent experience, and
Yep.
I mean, they look super clean.
They do. They are super low friction. And depending on what one you get, so let's say like the one I just like showed you, I got like the Skypad 3, and that's like the smoothest one. And then I also like over on the side over here, I got like a Skypad 2, and that one's a little more grittier, but it's a little more slower, but it's still a glass pad. All right, so I think this is like the super light brand or whatever of glass mouse pad he has. So I don't know how like smooth it is or whatever.
I've always found these really interesting, especially the completely unfiltered input that you can have. You know, you can make the tiniest of micro adjustments with this thing, and you just will not get that from any of the fastest cloth pads out there. But this by far is the most challenging surface to play on, which has basically been my experience so far. I mean, it's
okay. So it's the most challenging thing to control to control a mouse on this. So the reason why that is because when you have a mouse and whatever skates on a glass pad, it picks up all the little motions that your arm makes, just, you know, in general, versus like a cloth pad. A cloth pad will just absorb a little bit of the micro tiny movements that your arm makes, even just like standing there, you know? Like, it's really like, unless you're completely relaxed and you're like, you know, even the mouse moves a little bit. Like if I'm trying to be still, you know, because your arm and your hand, it just moves even the slightest. So trying to control that is really difficult, even for like the aim trainer bros. Like there's not that many like glass mouse pad enjoyers. I mean, there are some, but there's not a lot. You know, you have to have the mouse control to, which is kind of hilarious, to be able to utilize the glass pad.
It's a super interesting experience, but there's basically zero stability, and to be honest, I end up playing a bit overconfident on them. But what if I...
Okay, also, I am curious to know if he used a sleeve on it. So like, I got this little Tommy Copper thing that I got at Walmart or whatever. Like, if I see like some dudes with like the sleeves that go all the way up to like their armpit, I'm like, bro, your biceps and triceps are not on the fucking table. Get that shit off your arm. Stop it. All right. All you need is something for your forearm, and then maybe a little bit on your hand right there. Like all this extra stuff like up here or whatever, like that's just noise. But because if you it's funny because if it's just your skin on the pad, it is the stickiest thing you will ever encounter. It is, your arm is just gonna stick, and there's like, if you're an arm aimer or whatever, even if you use your arm a little bit, it's like your skin on the pad is just gonna just completely stop all the smoothness at all.
I took switching a bit more seriously. What if I forced myself to play on a glass mousepad for 30 days? Would I improve? Would the switch be worth it? Now I'm already playing on a pretty low friction setup, custom 30 gram mouse on an Artisan Raiden, and
Ooh, one of the fastest cloth pads. And I remember seeing him make this 3D printed, what is this? I know it's a mouse, but like, it is a plastic card holder. What's that brand of like wallet that's like, it's that plastic thing where it's like you click a button and it's like boop. That's what this looks like. It's like that's what this is. And it's supposed to be like the lightest thing ever. But he probably, I don't know how he uses it. Maybe he like fingertips it or whatever. I don't know. I am just a casual grip enjoyer or whatever. So like there's no part of the mouse that you can stick on this part of your hand to create some stability. Like, I don't know, the big meaty part of like the bottom of your thumb. This is like completely fingertip. So I can understand if he used this thing on the SkyPad or on the glass pad, then yeah, that thing is gonna be like that. Hopefully he used like a GPX or something like, just not this.
And I'm mostly playing Overwatch 2 DPS with 2.4 cents, 1600 DPI, which is like a 36 centimeter 360.
Ooh,
really,
all right, not bad. 3060 CM, not bad. I dig it.
no complaints about this setup, but yeah, glass pads have me super interested in going even faster. And the reason for that is that, yeah, the Artisan Raiden is one of the fastest mouse pads on the mark. I mean, just compare it here to the Logitech G640. The Raiden is ultra low friction.
Okay, and also, don't get this confused. I haven't had the G640 pad or whatever the heck this is, but at least with the Artisan pads that I've had in the past, the fastest the pad will ever be is out of the box for at least a week. All right, that's the fastest the pad will ever be, depending on your usage, throughout your little game session or whatever. Like a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and then maybe it's gonna get slower and slower. So if you're not used to the speed of like the cloth Artisan pads, it will slow down, is what I'm trying to say. So this like vacuum, or what is this hair dryer test of like to test the friction of a mouse on the thing, this is fine, but like this is just out of the box friction or whatever. Like, do this test again at 2 weeks, at 3 weeks, at 4 weeks, a month, 2 months, and up to 6 months. It does get slower.
But I mean, compare that to glass. Yeah.
This thing's gonna go zooming. This thing's gonna go off the frame.
There is a really big difference. I've got to say, after those first few days, it brought back vivid memories of trying to use a glass mouse pad in the past. This feeling of potential, like it could be really good, but then...
Oh, what's funny? Is like, ever since I started aim training, and like, if you try to get in on like the new trend like early on when you suck at M&K, you're gonna have like some sort of warped perception of it, because that like you're not like, you don't have like the mechanics, you don't have the skill, you don't have the neurons or whatever. But then when I went back and like started playing with like my SkyPad again, after going like a long time back on like some Artisan pad I had, and like I was like more skilled or whatever, I was like, oh my god, I can actually take advantage of all this frictionless area I have. So I would say like he's got a SkyPad right there. Boom. The more skilled like you are, the less the pad matters. Yeah, because if you're like, I don't know, if you're like one of like the low ranks in like the VT benchmarks or whatever, and you try to jump on a glass pad, you're not gonna have a good time. However, if you're like, Diamond, Jade, Master, Plus, then you'll be able to control this bad boy.
And just overall playing worse on it. I mean, the fact that you can do the smallest of micro adjustments and that every small input is registered, that is really cool. Like, the theoretical aim potential here, I feel, is massive.
Yeah.
It's the best thing about glass mouse pads for competitive FPS for sure, but I'd say it's also the worst. The expectation is that you're instantly going to improve.
Okay, so playing what is this, Widowmaker? The sniper lady? Which is like a very, I don't know, static shooting gun, you're trying to snipe in general. You're gonna probably want a cloth pad whenever you're playing Widowmaker. Or there's just people out there that are just goated with the sauce and play on a SkyPad and just stomp face with Widowmaker. I don't know. So
your tracking feel and it's going to be smoother than ever. But honestly, I just felt more jumpy and twitchy than anything. And that bled into my other gameplay as well. I was overthinking things, losing a bunch of confidence, and my positioning and timing were just really off.
Yeah, because you're playing on 36 cm on the glass pad, it's not gonna feel like 30. Like, even though it's actually 36 cm, it's not gonna feel like 36 cm. It's gonna feel faster. So with that alone, you have to try to like condition yourself to be like, if you just make an easy flick or whatever, you know, maybe under flick a little bit, and then you have to be way smoother with like your wrist movement and your shoulder movement with like your flicks. You have to be way smoother than you can on a cloth pad. A cloth pad will let you be a little more belligerent with your movements, more erratic, because it simply absorbs all the little micro movements that your arm's gonna do.
But by far the biggest problem that I've had with glass mouse pads is this feeling of your arm and wrist getting stuck. You know, you can have the least amount of friction and the smoothest tracking from the mouse, but that's all just ruined by this feeling of like your arm and wrist getting glued to the
sleeve
pad.
on.
So this is where a compression sleeve comes in. And compression sleeves, they've been around for a while, but these ones here from Pulsar, which are actually...
Oh, you got the Pulsar thing, you got the around the thumb thing. Is it... See, so with the around the thumb thing, it's like, I don't want shit around my fingers, because if shit's around my fingers, it's gonna mess up like my, I don't know, my hand sense with my mouse. That's probably not a real thing, but I want the mouse in 100% contact with my hand. I don't need a thing going around my thumb, because it just takes away the feel of it, if that makes sense. So maybe it doesn't bother him that much or whatever. It's fine. You know, if it works, it works. You know, that's the main thing. But I don't like anything around like my fingers.
Relatively new, they're cut specifically for aiming. You've got the forearm ones, you've got like, you know, just glove kind of specific ones, if like only...
Oh, I had no idea that they made these. This is probably good. More options, better, great.
Your hand is getting stuck, which, you know, that is pretty cool. But yeah, I decided to go with like a full coverage option because I guess I just have like a lot of hand and arm contact with the pad. And look,
yeah, so the reason, this is kind of funny because, and you can kind of see it right here, is I think Optimum Tech works out, like he works out a little bit. So he just simply, his arms are bigger than the normal gamers. So, like, if he's buying a medium, he is griefing himself. He probably needs a large minimum, if not like an extra large for his, like, the armor right here. Because you can see it's kind of doing that the anime stocking, like, leg, you know, it's like, ooh, it grips the skin, and then there's a little bulge right there. It's like, oh, yeah. So, this might be a little... you know, too compressed for him. Like, it's fine over like 10 minutes, 20, 15, I don't know, 30 minutes or whatever. But over the course of maybe a longer play session, this might be very annoying. So like, I got a lot of I don't know if you can see this or whatever. Like, there's a lot of creases. Like on the big chunky forearm part, there's like no creases. But like up here, like in the wrist area or whatever, there's like a lot of creases. And it doesn't really affect me at all. So maybe going with like a slightly, you know, this is a customization thing. It's whatever.
I'll be the first one to say it. This looks absolutely ridiculous. Like,
oh yeah, it does. You look like an idiot. It's like, I gotta put on all these extra clothes just to play a video game? What the fuck? Oh man, true.
Are you insane? You're going to wear a compression sleeve just to sit down and play games. Like,
yes.
Is that really what you've come to?
Yes.
Yeah, it looks insane. But I do come from a bit of a sporting background. I used to compete in powerlifting. And in powerlifting, there is a lot of equipment. There's wrist wraps, knee sleeves, lifting belts, lifting shoes.
There's no possible way you could look more ridiculous than putting on like the belt, the wrist wraps, the grips, the special shoes, the singlet. All right. If you did competitive powerlifting, all right, you can't look more ridiculous there, or you can't look more ridiculous at your desk if you did that. All right. Peak ridiculousness was reached a long time ago. All right. With the singlet. All right. You sitting down in like some whatever shirt and pants and then you have to put a little half sock on your arm, you're fine, dude.
And then there are things like chalk, baby powder.
Yeah.
All of these things do allow you to lift more weight. They improve your...
Damn, what the fuck? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my god, 5 and change? Oh my god. What a unit. She, man.
technique, and overall you do get an improvement in performance. So this idea then of being like too good to wear an arm sleeve when it comes to gaming, you know, I had to get beyond that, because at the end of the day, it can improve your performance as well. And you know, gaming is competitive too. What else is, you know, playing multiple hours a week, queuing ranked, and you know, trying to improve. And I've got to say, the sleeve was kind of a game changer. My skin was no longer getting stuck, and at the same time didn't feel too slippery. This really improved the consistent feel of things, which is really important. Still a bit shakier here than normal, but definitely building some confidence and improving. Most of all though, just actually finding it to be an enjoyable and fun setup to play on. I do not know though how people would use glass pads without a sleeve. I just found it.
They don't. They're clueless. If you use the glass pad, you use the sleeve. Like, no one is out here playing with a glass pad and no arm sleeve.
To be impossible. At this point though, I was still seeing some of those little hand twitches and shakes that I just wouldn't see on a cloth pad. The friction here is so low that it just kind of reveals all of those imperfections.
And that's okay. All right, and I'll tell you why. Because it's another level that is revealed to you that you could not have seen before on a cloth pad. This is just something else in your little bullet point of like lists of things that you need to work on, you know, like in powerlifting. You know, you can have a week this, a week that, so on and so forth. I misgrooved it. My XYZ muscle is weak. I'm going to work on it to try to gain some more stability and strength or whatever. It's simply a facet, a bullet point to work on
in your raw hand control. Now, if you're interested in a glass mouse pad, there are kind of three main ones that you should know about. The first one is the SkyPad 3.0. This is the first one that I've tried, and you know, most people using a glass mouse pad are probably using a SkyPad. It's pretty much the OG. And although I keep saying glass pad because it is constructed mostly of glass, it does actually have a small micro texture on the surface, partly for stability and feedback, but also for the mouse sensor, which is essentially just a small camera to actually have something to visually track. If it was just a perfectly smooth surface like a glass sheet, then you wouldn't have any sensor information at all. The next one is the Serapad Kin, which is the second one that I tried, and yeah, this thing is massive. It's the biggest mouse pad that I have. It's 500 by 500 millimeters, which is massive, but to be honest, it's not what I was after, because this one feels really unique, whereas the other glass pads are kind of like speed pads, really low friction. This one actually has quite a bit of stopping power. So, you know, it might be something that you're after if you're playing like
a glass pad that is slow. Because I never played this, and this is like huge. 500 by 500. That's like, what's the SkyPad 3? 400 by 400 or something like that. This thing looks monstrous.
Like Valorant.
Yeah, and it's that he's fighting the pad for smooth tracking. Like, you don't have to fight the SkyPad 3 for smooth tracking. It's just like it depends on like what game you're playing and what your goal is with whatever pad that you buy. Like, you get the SkyPads for smoothness, not necessarily for stopping power. I mean, have there been, you know, like I said before, have there been people that have gotten really high static scores with a SkyPad? Yeah, absolutely. They exist. But they would probably be the minority. And if they can get those scores on a SkyPad, they could probably get those scores on a cloth pad too.
Or CS, and you want a bit more control and stopping power, but I mean, at that point you might as well just go with a cloth pad. And then we have the new Super Glide pads from Pulsar. Comes in like a pretty plain white color and a red one as well. I'm not sure.
It was Super Glide, not Super Light. And then kind of banking on the whole like red Supreme thing, but it's just red and super.
If there are other colors, but these are the two that I picked up, and yeah, to be honest, it's pretty much what I'm after. A little bit more stopping power than a SkyPad, but you're still definitely getting that extremely smooth and just fluid tracking experience.
Ooh.
So about 3 weeks in here, Super Glide pad feeling super comfy at this point. The sleeve also feeling really normal to put on, and yeah, things are starting to click. I mean, I know things are feeling good when I have the confidence to go for those crazy shots, and then you kind of surprise yourself when they actually connect. And although that smooth tracking is kind of what glass pads do best, I still felt pretty decent enough for quick timing stuff and flicks as well. At this point, I also reintroduced a bit of aim training in Kovacs, which I have.
You should have did that from the very beginning, man. You would have like supercharged this whole process if you would have just been doing Kovacs on day one. You would have been getting way more comfortable, way more quicker.
Been booted up for months, if I'm honest, but just to redevelop.
You foregoing the aim training. Oh.
That mouse control on this new setup and smooth out those jitters, which are really painfully obvious when using a glass pad. And yeah, it did really help. I think at this...
Bro, is your Steam name 23G? Because that's how light the mouse is. Oh man, just a humble flex.
Point, I was truly realizing how relaxed and confident your mouse control has to be on a setup that is this low friction.
Yeah, you have to actively relax your hand. And I'm not talking about like complete utter, you know, your hand is a noodle, you know, your hand is just tight enough to control the mouse. To, you know, for whatever, you know, whatever type of movement you're doing. So like if you're doing like a 180, yeah, it's okay to like grip your mouse slightly more than normal. And then once your reticle is over the target, you have to actively relax it and just focus on like mirror, counter mirror, or anti-mirror, or whatever.
I mean, it really benefits from being super dialed in and warmed up, and is kind of punishing if you're not. One thing I will say for sure though is that I definitely prefer a glass pad versus glass skates. So these are the Pulsar Super Glide glass skates, which I've reviewed about a year ago.
Yep, I got the Super Glides too. So I'll say this. So I use the glass Super Glides on like some G Pro wireless super light that I had. And then I used it on an artisan pad. I think it was the Otsu or whatever. And for like a week, it felt awesome. All right. These things could glide. It felt super silky smooth. But then after a week, it turned to sludge. It turned to molasses. So I could see the benefit of using these in like niche situations. Like, I mean, because like, well, I don't even know if they're good for that situation. Because like, I was gonna say, if you're doing like a tournament, like I don't know, some sort of gaming tournament where it's like a multiple day type event, and you need some speed and you need some smoothness or whatever, I would say it would be okay to get like some glass skates and like some, I don't know, some cloth pad or whatever, because it's gonna feel good the entire event. But afterwards, you might as well just tear the skates off and dip them and put some PTFEs on, because it just loses all the smoothness that you get from it. It's like the glass skates are essentially like disposable razors. They're good for a couple uses, and then just toss them out because they lose their smoothness. They lose the speed.
Biggest problem with these are the inconsistencies that you feel across, you know, the different parts of your mouse pad, parts that are warmer than others, parts that are more worn down. The experience is a really inconsistent one. Also, if you've ever wondered what glass on glass feels like,
don't do glass on glass. This is stupid.
It's basically like your mouse is on an air hockey table. There is no feedback underneath the mouse pad at all. I mean, here you can at least, you know, hear it. You can feel a bit of that through your fingertips. Here, on the other hand, there is just nothing at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably don't do this. Glass pad on the other.
And plus, if you do the glass on glass, and if like a piece of hair or some dust or whatever the fuck, like some food crumbs get underneath that shit, you're just gonna look like an idiot, you know, smudging and like scratching the shit out of your pad or whatever. It's like, okay.
On the other hand, I mean, these things are perfectly consistent all the way around. I mean, I haven't felt any wear down or anything like that. I mean, it's hard to imagine that a 60-gram mouse or under with PTFE glides are going to start, you know, affecting the surface quality of such a hard surface. The only thing.
So I've been using the SkyPad 3 with like some PTFE feet for a while now, and it's like for the SkyPad 3, like the 3 slows down like a smidge, a very small amount. But the thing with that is like the PTFE feet, they do wear. Even on the SkyPad 2, they wear even faster because it's more textured or whatever. The SkyPad 3 is faster or whatever, so there's less wear, or at least as quickly. And I haven't reached a point yet where it's like I have worn down the skates to where it's like hitting plastic on glass. And even if that does happen, they're PTFE feet. You can just simply tear the skates off or whatever and just apply some new ones. All right, they're cheap as hell. But it's just like an awareness thing. It does happen, but how often it happens is like, I don't know, like maybe depending on how much you play a day, I would say anywhere from like 3 to 6 months, leaning closer to like 6 months if you play like not as much, and maybe 3 months if you play more. I'd guess.
Thing I'd recommend is just giving the surface a quick wipe with a cloth, just get all the dust and hairs off it.
Yeah, so also it is completely this is neurotic and schizo, but like I have like a little wipey here. I just constantly, kind of constantly, like I will just give it a quick little wipe or whatever just to clear off like any oils or like hair or dust or whatever is on this thing, and you're good to go. You're back to being silky smooth again
before you sit down and play, because it's not nice having all of that stuff between your mouse and that glass surface. And so this is the final 30th day, and at this point I'd say I'm kind of just playing and
he is still playing with the 23 gram thing. God dang. Respect. Put some respect on his name.
Focusing on other areas of the game rather than trying to adapt to this new mousepad feel. Because after a month playing on it, I'm just
he's just simply swapping between all of them.
Kind of used to it. So especially if you're coming from a control focused pad, definitely be patient with this completely new setup. All of that stopping power and kind of input filtering will be gone. And I'd say that's the worst thing about glass mouse pads. You have to rely on your raw hand control, but it's also the best because you're feeling super dialed in and feeling really
Optimum Tech be fucking cooking.
Good. I mean, I probably wouldn't trade this low friction setup for anything else. And about the sleeve, it is still a bit weird.
Sure you are. Sure you're cheating. Okay.
Weird from the outside looking in, but if you care about consistency and not having that extra variable of skin contact on the pad, which changes as you start to warm up, it's actually pretty nice. So I would now say I am a glass mouse pad enjoyer.
Yeah.
Are they optimal? Are they like ideal? I think, saying any peripheral is like the meta is pretty far stretched, to be honest, but I will say this, for tracking-based games like Overwatch and Apex, that super low friction feel, if you can get used to it, is like nothing else out there. For tactical shooters like Valorant or CS, I'm pretty sure most pros are using a control pad, so that's what I'd probably stick with there. But for Overwatch, Apex, the glass is super nice. So I'm actually going to continue using the black Super Glide pad from Pulsar. I think it looks super clean. Ooh. Realistically, I'm not playing that much better on
Black Square Gang. Woohoo!
On it compared to the Raiden, but hey, I'm pretty used to it now, so I might as well keep using it. I've also found that my hand control on these really low friction pads does benefit a lot from regular aim training too, so I'm...
Oh yeah, definitely. Like if you start doing Kovacs on the SkyPad, you will, like your hand stability, you'll be more conscious of it, and you're just gonna only get better. And then, honestly, like, the few times that you do go back to like the Raiden, you can still excel. Like if you're struggling in like static or stuff or whatever, you can just simply put the Raiden back on and just go to town. Like you put that stuff back on, you're like, oh my god, this is the stability I need. You get your score, and then you're done. All right. Then you toss it on the bed or whatever, and then you put the SkyPad back on, and then it's like, okay, let's do the smoothness thing. All right.
I'm going to try and be more consistent with that as well. Also, for those interested in the custom 30-gram mouse that I made in a recent video, you won't have to wait too much longer for these. I do have all of the accessories now, which is great, but the shells are currently in production, just waiting for those, as well as the pack.
The whole battery is just exposed. I know.
Packaging boxes as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's basically everything you need to know if you're interested in picking up one of these new glass mouse pads. I'll see you all in the next one.
I dig it. Where was that? Get that back here.
Glass mouse pad.
Okay. Yeah, this was awesome. Subtle flex with the deadlift and squat weight. True. Oh my god. But yeah, like the whole glass pad thing, I think it's a great move if you're in that, or it's at least a great buy if you're in that like intermediate range of like, I don't know, aim training type deal or whatever, and you're looking to just, you know, it's not really a necessity per se, it's just a different feeling or whatever. So I mean, I thought this was a great video. I think it's cool that Optimum is like super jacked, super strong, and still really good, like at the M and K thing. All right, so him switching to like a glass pad is awesome. Join the glass gang. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And till next time, guys, I'll see you later. Peace.